learning the same lesson and being surprised by it. And the truth is that I am a tryhard, and I keep learning that rest is actually the way forward for me. But the thing about being somebody who tries really, really hard and is like comfortable working really, really hard, and I mean, part of it, I enjoy it, right? I do have ADHD, so I get hyper-focused. I get fixated on things, and then I just go for them. And in my life, in a lot of ways, that has paid off. It's how I came to be living in Portugal, after living in the Republic of Georgia, after having a stint in the UK, after having a stint in Nova Scotia with my family, because I'm always like looking for ways to make my dreams and goals happen. And what's been so interesting for me in a business sense, after having a really try-hard business of being a virtual assistant, where, I mean, I was figuring it out. I hadn't had a career outside of taking care of my kids, and then like I was doing art and I was doing some things, but it wasn't a full-blown career because I have 5 kids. And I was busy with them. So the virtual assistant business was a try-hard business because I was getting paid hourly, and you know, you work more, you get paid more. And there are ways to do the virtual assistant thing without having it totally be trading your time for money, but I never quite got there with that kind of virtual assistant business, which is fine because I didn't do virtual assisting because it was my dream job. I did virtual assisting because it was a remote income that helped us to launch abroad. And so it did its job, but it isn't my career aspirations. Now, so that's the career, other than the career of motherhood, high needs motherhood, which is a whole thing of its own, big family motherhood. All of those things feel like a career. They feel like a 24/7 practicum in a lot of things. However, I haven't had a career yet where I'm getting paid well for things that I really feel gifted in. I'm wanting to figure out what that looks like, and I'm learning right now that it doesn't actually, for me, mean trying harder and doing the things that are the most difficult for me and never resting. That's sort of how I made our move abroad happen. Now, I was excited about it and it had a result that I love, but I spent a lot of time and hours just working harder. And when things would fall apart, I would make new plans and work harder. A friend of mine recently asked me, you know, how do we get out of survival mode? And a few months ago, I posted what another woman wrote, which was, who could I be if I wasn't always in survival mode? And I think that this is a big question for a lot of us women in our 40s who are like, I really don't want to spend the rest of my life in survival mode and just like working so hard at everything. What if it could be easier? What if we could choose ease? What if we actually get the results that we want by resting, by unplugging, instead of by exhausting ourselves and working harder. It really did surprise me that my biggest clarity moments this summer came during periods of rest, or at least of not working so hard on my business and not just trying to figure out the next thing that would work and how do I talk to my audience, which was not the audience that I should have. That's not true. It's not the audience that I want to be talking to long term. It's too small of an audience, and it's too small of a topic. I want to talk bigger because I was so focused on how do I make this work? How do I make this work with this particular audience and with this particular topic? I was so focused that I was feeling burnt out because I wasn't at my core really excited about talking about that anymore. Because I did want to be creative and I did want to share things that felt like deeper on my heart than here's how you move across the ocean with your family and here's what visas to get and whatever. Like those things aren't actually compelling to me. And so I was burning out because I was trying very hard to fit myself into this very small box of what I was imagining I should be doing. And because I was burning out, my coach told me at that time, I think you just need to exist, because we were also like hosting and we were having like good hosting experiences and we were having horrible hosting experiences that I'm still traumatized by. And like there was so much going on and she just was like, Andy, just exist. And in that existing, I wasn't really sure how to do it, for one thing. One day I was like, I'm just gonna exist today. And then I power washed our very disgusting rug, which was like really intense because it's a very big rug and we don't have steam cleaners here. So I was in the backyard, like power washing a nasty rug for hours on my just exist day. The just exist day needed to turn into a just exist season, about a month. And during that time, I challenged myself to do some things that were just for me and not at all for the purpose of my business or my YouTube channel or whatever. And one of those things was digging back into my genealogy and figuring out more information about my Irish ancestry and then the Scottish ancestry before that. And it's a fun mystery that I still do not have the answers to, but it was something that was just for me. It was just for me to enjoy. It's not something that's going to really mean much to anybody else except for my immediate family. And that was good for me. And I think doing that just sort of made me happy and gave me something else to do with my brain than trying to figure out how to make a business work. And then during that time, when we had so many visitors, one of the visitors noticed my artwork. She didn't realize that I was a painter. And so that happened at the same time as my friend who owns a coffee shop saying we should really finally display more of your work because I'd had a painting there for a while. And so all of a sudden I was doing a ton of paintings. Okay, so the reason I told you about the friend, the visitor, was she saw a painting in my house, and then we went to the coffee shop, and the coffee shop painting didn't have my name on it at the time. And she looked at the coffee shop painting and she was like, "Is that yours?" I mean, having no idea that my painting would be at the coffee shop. And she recognized my style. And the reason that I am mentioning that story today is because it's part of what inspired me to start really painting in earnest again, which is one of the most natural feeling things for me. And it really can only happen when I have given myself space and when I've given myself time and freedom to work on creative projects. Creativity really can only come when you yourself are inspired, and it can only come when you have had rest. And that's a very different paradigm than success from hourly virtual assistant work. And I'm not used to it yet, and I don't know how the fruit is going to pay off yet, but I do know that I feel so called to creative work and to the things that I have to offer most in the world have to do with creative work, whether that's writing or speaking on here and sharing things that I've learned or sharing stories. It's painting, and all of those things require me to stay inspired. And the reason I keep learning that, I learned that through the just existing lessons of just giving myself space to not be working so hard and to try and just enjoy my life again. Then full circle, we are in August, several months later, and I got sick. I got sick probably because I've been working too hard, but also because my life is stressful, right? My immune system was worn down. So I did a good job. When I was sick, I tried to keep things very minimal with what I was working on. I look like I was at death's door in yesterday's video. I really was quite at death's door, but I spent a lot of time in my bed this weekend. When I was in my bed, I watched a Netflix series with my husband. And the way that this connects is interesting because it is one more way that I learned that making space for rest is actually where I find the biggest inspiration. So I'm watching this show. It's a really fun one. It's called The Residence on Netflix. It is produced by Shondaland Media, which is always good, right? And it was a delightful show. Well, what made it even more delightful is the fonts. I love a good font. I was totally nuts about the Killing Eve font. I don't know if you watched that show, but that font was fantastic. Well, The Residence has incredible font. So we get to episode 6, and I'm just loving it because it's a comedy, but it's a murder mystery, and it's so fun. Just a really enjoyable, lighthearted watch for somebody like me who grew up loving the game Clue. So it's a delight. And in the intro, every time there's this great font, but also in the intro, there's these drawings. And it took me 6 episodes to see in the intro that the drawings were really familiar to me. And I was like searching for, I just knew they were in a book of mine that I'd had. And I didn't know when I'd had it, but it was like a children's book. I recognized the illustrations, like the style. And that's how this connects to me. I recognized the style. And so I searched, like, who is this artist? And her name is Maira Kalman. So sketch with pronouncing names that I've never heard anybody say before and I've only read. And so I looked, to see what books has she written, or like what is her work. And I found the specific book. It was called Max Deluxe, and it was a book that I had about 30 years ago. And it's a children's book, but I had it as a teenager because it had really fun art. And I don't think I've seen her work since that time, but I immediately recognized it, even though I didn't know her name or didn't remember her name. And so I just started doing this deep dive into Maira Maira Kalman. And she has fantastic books since that time, and she's been a really prolific artist, and her style is so specific, so recognizable, similar to how Van Gogh's work is so recognizable. It's like you just know it. And I want that kind of work. I want to be the kind of artist who people can recognize my work. I want it to be so specifically me that it's recognizable. And so when our visitor was able to recognize my work in 2 different places without knowing that the second one was mine, except by looking at it, that woke up something in me and helped me realize this has got to be a part of what I'm going to continue to do in the world, is paint. And so just another example with watching this series and trying to rest and just trying to give myself space to recover this weekend. And then I found another confirmation of this is an artist who, here's all the things that she's done, and you recognized her work, and you want to be that person. Like, you want to be a person who has a trademark style. And those realizations don't come when you're just head down, like, how do I make money? How do I make money? Like, coming from a place of anxiety. So I'm learning and relearning that as a creative person, I've got to keep inspired. I've got to go down those bunny trails, like, oh, what artist is this? And then see her new work, and then think about work that I want to make, and, see the things that she talks about as a long practicing artist. It was so good for me. I don't have a lot of artists that I follow, which seems silly, really. I was so glad to be exposed to the book Steal Like an Artist. I can't remember the guy's name right now. I'll put it in the video or put it in the description or something. But that was suggested by Glow, who's very, very creative. I don't even know how to describe her, because she's also like super good at business, and I am creative, and I am learning to figure out how to be good at business. But something that she said when she told me to exist was simply like, if Andy's not okay, then nothing matters. Like, I can't do work. I can't take care of my people. Nothing matters if I am not okay. And sometimes we have to go back to existing and making space to be inspired and making space to rest. And so I continue to learn this lesson and be surprised by how fruitful rest can be. And I don't want to rest just to produce, but it does make me remember that it is okay to listen to my body. It is more than okay that I actually need to set up my life in a way that my body is okay and my mind is okay, and that I'm not just only trying to be a machine and produce. Because I won't live the life that I want to live if I'm only trying to produce all the time. So those are the things that I've been surprised by this week. And I need to get this uploaded. So I'm Andy. I'm here to remind you to find the beauty wherever you can find it so that you can stay afloat in your life and hopefully even get inspired to love your life more than you do today. See you later. I just knocked myself out there. Bye.